Beyond Limits. Expanding minds. Opening hearts. Connecting into oneness. And that's Reverend Lee Wallach from the Agape Spiritual Center, and I'm Reverend Larry DeRusha, and I'm at the Center for Spiritual Living in St. Louis. He's in Dallas. So let's talk about, what are we talking about today, Lee?
I think I really want to get into the whole idea of why do we need to feel like we're people pleasers? Why is it that we give away our power? Why do we care what other people think so much? Why do people dress so other people can think that we're there? Why do we have to get affirmed when we have an opinion or we have a belief? Those questions just keep coming up. What about you? What do you think about that?
Well, those are good ones. And there's some assumptions in there. The first one is that we are human beings. And it seems as though the long-term cultural, and I mean worldwide culture, is that we need approval from other people to be okay. As far as dress, instantly what came to my mind is go back to the Romans 2,000 years ago and the regalia that they used to wear just to impress each other.
Yeah, it's been throughout history. I mean,
yeah.
I know that in the corporate
the birds
world.
do the same thing.
Yeah. Larry, when I was in the corporate world, we're going back to like 1978. Wow. I was a rising star at Allstate Insurance. I was up for promotion to go from Michigan to the zone office in Chicago. And the head of the zone came in and he said, "Wallach, we want you, but in order for you to come, you got to shave your mustache." And I looked at him, I said, "Really? My mustache is the reason that's stopping me from this promotion?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, dude." I didn't say dude, but I said, "I'll give that some consideration." And immediately I went out and put my resume out because I was not going to subordinate myself to his wishes. Oh. But at the same time, I wore a white shirt with a tie and a suit for almost 32 years.
So why did you resist him?
I have this natural urge to be an individual. I do not like being told what to do. And you've known me well. You've known me now years, and I'm sure you understand that I wouldn't be the minister I am if I wasn't a rebel.
Yeah. Yeah, the corporate world is so unusual to me. I mean, one of the things I was talking about was Simon Sinek and his thing about the big why. And in there he quotes Apple computers, and he said, people don't buy Apple computers and Apple watches and everything else because they're their best. They buy them because Apple computer tells them what they, Apple, believe in, and it's going against the grain and designing things that are beautiful and very user-friendly and very unique looking, and that philosophy brings them more business than anybody else.
You know what's fascinating is the thing people ask me, what do I like in just about anything? And I will tell them, I like simple elegance. Mm-hmm. And so I'm naturally attracted to Apple products because of their simple elegance.
Yeah.
I know when I bought my last car, I bought a Honda, in 1998, I bought a Honda Civic Hybrid. Before I left, I made them take the decals off the back of it. So you can't tell what kind of car it is because I want simple elegance. I'm a rebel.
Oh, is that what it was? Or I thought maybe you wanted some dough for advertising their brand.
Well, I just don't believe, why should I be a walking, talking advertisement for anyone?
Yeah, well, you are for yourself.
I am indeed, aren't I?
So why do we need this kind of approval? What's the psychological background for it? Because clearly there's an awful lot of people in the world that do.
I think it's the domestication process that starts when we're born. I think the second we come out of the womb, mom and dad are there. Be a good little boy, Lee, and daddy will love you, mommy will love you. And it keeps going. And so mommy and daddy are grooming you to be a people pleaser. Then you get to the relatives, people pleasing. Oh, grandma loves it when you do this. I'll give you a cookie. And then you get into school. Well, hey, if you're good, you'll get a great conduct award. You'll get a star on the top of your head. And then as you go through school, you get into your friends. Hey, if you're my friend, you'll do it this way. Then you get into the corporate world. The whole life, everything that happens to us, we have been conditioned, we have been domesticated into being people pleasers.
Yeah, it's definitely a learned thing because we can go back to some of the Amazon tribes, and what we find is they don't have that kind of competition for approval with each other. There is definitely in some of those tribes, there's hierarchies of who's going to do what. And in the matriarch societies, certainly there is hierarchies, but it's not about you have to wear this in order to be okay, or you have to be this in order to be okay. The separate self, the ego, has to have that kind of approval for whatever reason, I don't know. And like you say, if we've been domesticated into it, then we don't feel right unless we're being approved of.
Yep.
When we get up on stage, we say, "Hey, here I am," and we start talking. And the person who is a rebel, people like. Why? Because that's what they want. They want to be that same thing. They want to be free, which takes me back to the point of, isn't that a central tenet of what spirituality is about? Is freedom?
Exactly. I think, I've been studying the work of John DeMartini for years now, and he talks about axiology, which is the study of values. And he teaches that there's a hierarchy of values, and everyone has a different hierarchy. In other words, your top 3 values will be different than my 3 values, and anyone else's top 3 values. However, I believe there's an innate value within all of us, and that desire is the value of freedom. Yeah. And I think some of us have so buried it and so sacrificed it that we've repressed this freedom so deeply, and that's when we get into depression, we get into anxiety, we get into addictions because we're not expressing our free self, we're not being authentic.
Yeah, I think the other side of that is in the spiritual side is that we want to be free from the separate ego self. We want to let go of that. We have experienced the freedom at times in our life, glimpses of it at times in our life, and we like that. We know our essence, and the essence is freedom. Freedom from being in a body, freedom from being caught up in this mind, freedom from a universe, freedom that goes way back to, really, I guess if I'd say, it's a calling back to our essential self.
And that was one of the attractions that I really read about for doing the ayahuasca journeys. Because when you take Mother Ayahuasca in the ceremony, it's about freeing your mind to express whatever's in it. What they don't tell you is it could be freeing your mind of some really big demons that are buried deep inside.
Yeah.
And when that comes out, whoa, Katie bar the door, you better be ready for it.
Yeah, that's the same thing with the bad trips and LSD in the 60s and 70s. We have all this unconscious or subconscious mind stuff that's in there. And setting that free, like you say, you better be ready because you never know what's in there. It can even be stuff that's been accumulated over lifetimes. And
Larry, when I did it, I thought I'd uncovered all of this subconscious stuff. I thought I'd done all of this work. And in 4 of my 5 journeys, they were horrifically dark. They were where I was just very sensitive to everything, sensitive to smell, sensitive to noise, sensitive to song. I just wanted to be alone. I had this strong craving to be in pure silence. But I couldn't get it. There was no way it was going to happen. And so I literally had to be in this state of extreme mental discomfort for 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah. Remember the Woodstock, and I can't think of his name, but the guy who ends up setting up what's called the first aid tent for all the people who have gone on LSD trips, and they would come in tripping out and having a bad trip, and they didn't know what to do. And he would put them in this tent that he had, and it was filled with people. And they were on that journey, and for the most part, most of those that came in didn't like it. Were having trouble with it. It was really bringing up stuff that they... And, of course, then there's Baba Ram Dass. And Ram Dass talks about the spiritual journey with drugs. And he said the real problem with the spiritual journey with drugs is even the euphoria doesn't last.
Yeah.
So if you really want to have the euphoria, then you have to find the true essence of who you are. And in most cases, it's a longer journey, but it's a longer lasting.
And it's something that when you train yourself, you can go there whenever you want. And most people, I'm using the term, I'm qualifying, most people want the quick fix.
Sure.
And there's no such thing. It doesn't exist. And so I know for myself, I would love to go deeper and deeper and deeper into meditation really fast.
Doesn't work.
Sometimes it's very slow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as you were saying, all the things at the very beginning of the show, there's all of this stuff going on. And the mind is its own thing. It does its own thing. It just, it's not that it's wrong. It just generates thoughts. And it'll just keep spewing them out because it's untrained.
And Larry, it'll take a thought, and then the longer it's been repressed, it keeps adding all these things onto that thought. So what was once not so bad now has been embellished in the mind, and it becomes absolutely horrific. And then if you go on one of these quick journeys on LSD or ayahuasca, that's what plays out. Not the reality, but this embellished, repressed idea that's been stored in you for 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
Well, and I've often wondered if the collective consciousness, and as Ernest Holmes called it, the race consciousness, meaning the human race consciousness, if that doesn't play a part in it when you're in that space because you're uncontrolled. In other words, you don't have that control over what's going on in the mind. You could dive deep into that place in the collective, which is dark and heavy. And some people never made it out of those trips.
That's right.
It haunted them.
Take this idea of that collective consciousness again. And why are people people pleasers?
Yeah.
Because the collective consciousness says you've got to fit in. You've got to have this. You've got to be this way. And if you don't do that, they sort of, like the tribe rejects someone if you don't fit into the rules of the tribe. Well, that's going on everywhere right now. It's going on in religion. It's going in politics. It's going on in your local families, in your ethnicities, and all of that it's happening.
But it's been going on for forever.
Yeah.
So it's not new.
Yeah.
It's certainly more transparent right at the moment than it's been in the past. But even in the 50s, it was a highly repressed time.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks it was the Leave It to Beaver period of time. Well, I think research has shown that it was probably one of the most difficult periods for people because men were coming back from the wars, and even the women that were serving were coming back from the wars, and they wanted to get back into settling into something that was certain, and they didn't have to face all that kind of stuff. And all of that nastiness that was generated from it began to seep out. So there was more violence during that period of time, and there was more repression from society during that time. And of course, we go back to the psychology of, the Darwinism of you want to be homogeneous as a tribe. Nothing sticks out because that's the survival of the tribe. So it's a survival mechanism that's running, it seems to me.
Here's one of my favorite domestications, and I never put it together this way except maybe a couple weeks ago. Remember John F. Kennedy, one of the most popular presidents everywhere. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. You want to talk about domesticating? That's totally taking away your individuality. The country is more important than the individual.
Yeah.
That's a fascinating one to explore.
And by the way, I loved Kennedy, but he wasn't the most beloved president.
No.
There was a lot of the country that didn't like him. There was a lot of the Baptist community that didn't like that he was a Catholic.
Yep.
There were the other tribes that didn't like the fact that he was coming from a tribe that was in the Northeast, and it was the Kennedys, and they had a history to him. So there's a myth that's grown over the years, about this guy in Camelot and all of that.
Yeah.
And certainly, I think it was Noam Chomsky of the University of Chicago did a YouTube, and the question came up, so do you think that any of the presidents have broken the law? And he says they all have.
Yeah.
He said they all have. So he said, just go back in your history and you'll find out where they've broken the law. Whether it's allowing the CIA to go in and disrupt the elections of a country, or assassinations, or whatever it might have been. But the idea that our freedom is the most important thing, and yet it seems to me what happens is we give up on that at some point. And then we are angry at ourselves and the world because we've given up on the fact that we should be free. We can be free. And to me, all that is it's a stronger call to yourself. It's a stronger call to go inside. Find that place within you where that joy and that peace and that love and that harmony all exist as one. And it's been encrypted for thousands of years in the language of religion. It's all been there, but it's been encrypted, and a few people have had the ability to tell you. Now it's out a lot more than it ever has been.
It fascinates me the fact that we are so quick to give up our freedom, and then at a point we'll start complaining that we're not free, but we didn't want to take the time to stand up for who we are because we were afraid we weren't going to please someone. Then you get to this idea that meditation works, you can get to that place. Here's what goes through people's mind. Am I worthy to be in a place of peace? No one else is in a place. Why should I be the one that goes there? There's this whole, you take this collective consciousness and it's teaching us, who are you to think you can do that? That's only for the guru. That's only for the Dalai Lama. That's only for the Pope. That's only for the priest. And we've been domesticated into believing that there are layers that you have to have, and they have those rights, but everyone has those rights to experience that oneness, that perfection.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, the collective conscious is the greatest domesticator.
Without a doubt.
And so I think part of this is then the question, what can we do? What's a daily spiritual practice that I can do that's easy and not too difficult and allows me to build upon so that I can understand who I am, what the internal ecology is that's going on? I think for me, one of the things I found was when I came upon the idea that meditation is what's already happening. It's living. Now, what we really want is we want some silence. And in the silence, we can feel the freedom. So if we sit and we don't put this pressure on ourselves, I'm meditating, and I love the way the mind works. You settle down and you do a mantra or whatever you're going to do, and you sit there for a little bit and go, wow, I'm meditating. This is great. And then you go, wait a minute, the mind's talking to me. Well, who just recognized the mind was talking to you? So that kind of conversation goes on, and it frustrates people. and it makes them anxious, and they don't want to sit in the meditation for long. But if you start the meditation by saying to yourself, I'm just going to allow whatever experience wants to come up to just be. And I'm just going to be in that space. And I won't follow any of the thoughts, and I won't play with the sensations in the body, and I won't listen to all the stuff going on, but I'll just experience everything that's happening. And I think that's a great way to introduce ourselves into meditation so that we don't have that heavy struggle that I've seen so many people, and I'm sure you have too, go through in their daily spiritual practice. And some of them, when I ask them if you're doing your prayer work, which is also in the old days, prayer work meant meditation. And so, are you doing your prayer work? Are you doing your meditations? No? Well, why not? Wow, it got really hard. Okay, so then your mind has been very busy. So I think we just lost our audio. Maybe not. Anyway, so what's the last thing that we can say for people who are in this place of struggling day to day for their freedom and not having to, as we say, kowtow to everybody and get the adoration of the group and so on and so forth? What are we going to say that's going to help them in that place?
What I try to tell people is look in the mirror and realize that right now you're perfect. There's nothing you need to become different. Accept your body, accept your thoughts, accept your socioeconomic, accept where you are. And start living from that place of acceptance. And if you can get to that, you sort of no longer need other people's approval, because it's self-acceptance, in my mind, that brings in self-worth. And once you get to self-worth, you don't need an exterior force or other words or the collective coming in and telling you. And so when I can look and say, when I'm at the end of the day, and this is the one practice I'll bring in. You've already brought in meditation, but be grateful. Be grateful for everything. Be grateful for everything that happens. And most of all, I would say to you, be grateful for everything that happens that's uniquely you. Because that uniqueness is what's special.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, this is a good show. I think we got a lot into it. So we'll see everybody next time. And check us out on BeyondLimitsRadio.com. And you can find us on YouTube. You can search the YouTube for the channel, BeyondLimitsRadio.com.
And do us a favor. Do us a favor, subscribe, tell your friends, write comments down, because if you give us comments, we'll be glad to answer them. We can do a whole talk on it. So we're here to serve you, audience. So let us find out what it is you want to hear.
And boy, can we talk.
Yes, we can.
We'll catch
Beyond
you next
Limits.
time.
Have a great day,
Join
everybody.
us and ask your questions. Check our website for details on our call-in shows. Check BeyondLimitsRadio.com. That's BeyondLimitsRadio.com.